So as we do this, I've asked about 4 or 5 people if they wouldn't mind giving reflections at the beginning, and they will be picking up the talking stick, the 4 or 5 people. I may just ask people to do that if they wouldn't mind. And then after that, then this will be open for everybody. I'm going to have Dorothy, who opened the conference, let us know how the process goes, and for people who weren't in her workshop, she can even explain the story of the talking stick itself. And then she will end up closing once we're finished this part. But this is more our chance for everybody to reflect. We felt that we didn't want to have people so much on stage, and Zulfi was very kind in terms of not feeling that he wanted to. But we, as I said, that we have presenters who become participants, and participants who become presenters. This whole room is full of a lot of energy and expertise. So I'll leave the floor for Dorothy.
So I'm going to explain a little bit about this talking stick and how it gets used and how we'll use it today. Padapan nokwe nimki pineshistodem madajwan dinjaba. That's my Ojibwe name, my clan, and where I am from. And I always try to introduce myself when I'm using some of our original tools of relationship building and that kind of thing. So this is a talking stick. We used to utilize them a long time ago, prior to the imposed system that has been imposed upon us and how we govern ourselves. And so it's very representative in the sense that it is made up of a tree. There's a tree inside. The tree for us represents honesty. A birch tree is a birch tree and will never try to be a poplar tree or a cedar tree. And so it represents honesty. So when you're holding it, that you speak from the heart and be honest, right? The other that it's covered in is deer. The deer represents the kindness. To be kind to yourselves when you're expressing, knowing that you can be that and have that. Because they teach us that. They're kind to us, they provide for us, they provided us with materials for our homes, and they also provided food for us, all of that kindness, they would do that for us. And so that's represented by having it covered with the deer. The colors that are down here for us represent what we call the 4 races of man, how we view humanity. And the different colors that they represent. The circle's getting bigger here. I'm going to keep backing up. And then in the center here, there's also those 4 colors that are right in the very center. And for us, we have teachings about the 4 levels above and the 4 levels below. And so they're included on this stick also, this talking stick. What else is included are the star people. The stars at the top, they represent those people who help us, that are from out there, and they come to help us. And then the top, it's more personal. They used to be, the pink used to stand out more because I used to wear a lot of pink and liked a lot of pink, and so my sister is the one that made this for me because I was doing so much work with people. And so she put those on there for me to represent myself, who I am. But what she also put on there was this bird that's in flight for freedom. So you have the freedom to speak. But also, it was when she put that on there, we didn't know what our clan system was. And afterwards, when we found out what it was, and found out that it was the Thunderbird clan, it was very appropriate that that was already on this talking stick. And so generally what happens is that the talking stick goes around so that everyone gets to say something. And sometimes it's just, thank you. That's all you have to say. And it gets moved on. We're going to do it a little bit differently today because we're very adaptable people, and we have been over the centuries, is that we're going to allow the people that Neil has mentioned to speak first, to start things. And it will be sitting in the middle. This is a very old style of using the talking sticks, just so you know that. It's not just something that's popped into my head. Because when we used to have our different peoples coming together and they had to discuss things that weren't necessarily, they weren't necessarily agreeing upon, they used the talking stick and it would sit in the middle of the circle. And as each picked it up to speak, and when they were finished, they would put it down, and someone else then could go and pick it up and speak and respond to what was being said. And so it would go on like that until things were settled. So there's the two ways of using the talking stick. That was more of a political way of using the talking stick. The other, where I talk about where it goes right around and everybody gets to speak, is more of the healing type of talking stick, use of the talking stick. So today we're going to be a little bit more political. Combine the both because we are definitely talking about the earth, and so that needs to be looked after, and hopefully it's represented enough with the talking stick that you can speak in how you need to. So who am I passing it to? Okay.
Yes, and so PEGASUS is going to actually introduce Dr. Cyril, who has a gift for the group.
Thank you. Before I make some comments about the meetings, Dr. Giyungu brought a gift that he liked to give to the organizers of the conference. By the way, his father was a village chief, and he's also online to be a chief if you want it.
Thank you very much. I come up from Africa, and as far as the problem of custom is concerned, in my country, ancestors didn't write something. They always build this. It's the language, their language. Here there are two women. They are joking like that. It is the end and another end. You understand? Is to live together. They ask you the question, could you live in the peace? Is it possible? Is it? If it is possible, you say yes. Take this. It is African language. Thank you very much. There are my books there. The epidemic experience at Kikwit, build it a big house, and the mistake go back. We die before we have not gloves, we have not water, we are very, very poor, but we are not poor, we are rich. We have many, many things there. It's the problem of to live together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so PEGASUS has the stick.
Another conference. This is the third conference since we started, and there's something that has remained the same. Neil has not changed. And that's okay. You're going to get the larger landing strip for 747, but for now you're not there yet. So the spirit of this place of connecting people is still alive. And I was amazed the first time when Neil and I met at the Condor Grable, and realizing that with so many things in common, and then led to these last conferences that I've been part of. You cannot be global if you cannot network with other people. And so I'm really grateful that that spirit is still alive, and hopefully will continue. Couple things that I like to add for what has been going on in the last 4 or 5 years or whatever is the fact that for many, many years we talk about primary health care and so forth, and the language today is we talk about the global health. Some people like to stay in the little corner of global health, just talking about health and so forth. But there are some of us who like to extend it to including the issues of justice, peace, just like everybody who is around this circle, and all the ones probably who are not here, who left because of other responsibilities that could not be with us today. I think there's one piece that we need to think about very seriously as we talk about the global health is the whole area of leadership. Who are going to be the leaders to take us to the next step? When I said that Neil had remained the same, he made reference to his head, and my head is also much wider than it used to be. So who are going to be the next Neils? Who are going to be the next PEGASUS? How are we going to make effort so that when we meet at these conferences, that we make sure that we're tapping on the shoulders, not just by the people who are organizing this conference, but all of us who have been here, that we're tapping on the shoulder of the young generation that would continue, so that when we are not there, we will not, so the game does not end. Because there are some people who are very good. I used to play soccer. So you don't win the game if you don't pass the ball. You know, and you cannot be the one making the rules, at the same also be the one holding the ball, because some people, they prefer that when the ball gets to them, that the game is over, and that's not the case, hopefully, for this group. So that's one area I'd like us to really take a serious look each time we are together, and also when we go away from here. The last piece, I think that's as important, is we are talking about the quality of life for all of us who are still alive and strong and so forth. But I really think that it's really critical that we also start thinking seriously about how we include the whole issues of the death and dying. How do we deal with them? The whole, because there's more to it than just hospice. In Congo, we still have the rules left by the Belgians that you have to die in hospital in order to get the death certificate. So if you don't die in the hospital, you can imagine what would happen. So if you want to do hospice care, it becomes impossible because you have to deal with this big elephant in the whole country of Congo. So if we want to move in that direction, which I think we should be thinking seriously about bringing people together also to talk about those ideas or share about it, because it's all sticking in one main region. So, and the last comment, Neil, is that I still think that we need to think seriously at the holding some regional conferences. I really like it for coming to Toronto. I enjoyed it being in London, but you see, the people who need to be here are not here. So let's be creative on how we can take this to Asia, Africa, and Latin America, maybe Europe, I don't know, but thank you.
My name is Buma Viana, and I'm from London, Ontario. And this last 3 days has been an incredible experience for me. I was really introduced to global health through Neil when he was at Western. And until then, I had sort of worked in my silo as a clinician, and albeit doing refugee health and health to marginalized populations. This 3 days has helped me to see the interconnectedness of things. I think my practice partner came back from the Ontario Medical Association's Women in Medicine Day, and and reported to me that the speaker there said that the most important threat to this world is not necessarily terrorism or climate, but that it is the young single man with nothing to do. And yet, everything that I've heard here today is and the last 2 days has been about the interconnectedness of everything, how climate change, extractivism, consumerism, threats to the environment engender climate refugees, engender war, engender those young men who have nothing to do, and that is such a threat to social justice and equity, and this is what engenders the refugees and marginalized populations that come to our door as clinicians. So it's been an incredible learning experience and a call to action as well. I also learned this morning in the plenary about the importance of not relying on sources that we traditionally rely on. For the last 2 months, I would say that the only thing I thought was in the headlines was Trump. So it's been wonderful to be opened up to the possibility of learning from other places. Finally, through the 3 days, I've been reflecting on how everything that my mother said in Sunday school, she was a Sanskrit professor, and when she came to Canada, she couldn't be anymore, but continued to teach Sunday school. And everything that she taught was probably at the cornerstone of what I learned in the conference. And so in the context of the Bhagavad Gita, which was one of our big spiritual texts, the message is to move away from sense objects, so consumerism, extractivism, and to move towards an inner strength, and to do away with, now I wasn't a very good Sunday school student, so Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mobh, I've forgotten the rest of the 7, but relating ultimately to greed and avarice. So it comes back to when I was 5 years old in her Sunday school class, so it's come full circle. Thank you.
Is that working? Okay. So this is my my 3rd time being involved with the PEGASUS conference, and it's my 3rd time trying to consider the intersection of peace, global health, sustainability. When I first saw that, I thought, wow, how do these come together? And each time my understanding and my appreciation has been deepened for the interconnectedness, and this time more so. I realized so much how we are ever more interconnected in all of these areas. So when we're talking about conflict, whether we're talking about the environment, whether we're talking about global issues, this is not something that happens to someone else somewhere else. This is happening to all of us. The other thing that I really felt this time was that the need is urgent. It's not something that can be put off in any of these areas. What we're talking about is urgent. And the third thing that I really felt was that these issues require us to cooperate and to consider one another and to walk alongside one another. And a lot of the things that we learn from one aspect can be carried over to the other aspect. Our learnings from our approach to peace need to guide us in how we consider the other, on the other side of whatever issue we're considering, whether it's the environment, whether it's oil companies, whether it's people who we imagine are the perpetrators, that we need to figure out how we can abide with each other and speak to one another. And this conference teaches me each time how to do that. And I think we learn together how to walk forward together. And connecting the idea of urgency makes me feel that I'm really looking forward to the overall thoughts that Neil has spoken about, of putting things together and considering how in between every 2 years we can action things, or we can continue to consider and understand how urgent it is that we address all of these things in the manner that we learn from each other when we're here. So I want to thank everyone for teaching me, because each time I come, I learn something about how to go forward with the issues that scare me, because these issues really scare me. And I'm not as afraid after each conference. I feel more encouraged to not turn away, not avoid, but we have to figure it out and move forward.
So thank you very much for the opportunity of talking to you and sharing some thoughts today. I'm a novice. This is my first PEGASUS conference, and I've only managed to attend part of the last day. I just came back from Tanzania last night. But it's been a wonderful morning, because one of the curiosities I had was principally, how will you fulfill the agenda of bringing together peace, environment, global health, and particularly sustainability. And what I've heard this morning is quite encouraging. At least you have a whole range of young people who are thinking broadly, widely, and are probably well set not to repeat the mistakes of the last 15 years. So I was part of the group. Just a little bit about myself. I mean, I do global child health and survival. I'm the chair of global child health at the Hospital for Sick Children here, and I also head a women and child health program across campuses of the Aga Khan University in Africa and Asia. So I was part of the group that started the Millennium Development Goals, particularly from maternal and child health. And although it's been called a great success, it was also a very limited set of targets and global, let's say, platforms on which to reach women and children, because it did not include many of the issues that you're talking about. So almost 15 years on, the Millennium Goals have closed. People are calling the reduction in child mortality by about half and maternal mortality by about half as a qualified success. Many of us look at that as a glass half empty, because the world still has close to 6 million children dying, close to 300,000 women dying in and around childbirth every year. And many of the things that my colleagues have spoken about just now, justice, inequity, differentials, disparities, were things that were not part of the Millennium Development Goals agenda. They are now, fortunately, part of the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you look at the SDGs, as we call them, which have just started, all of the top issues that relate to health, social determinants, environment, climate change, nutrition in its broader sense, including food security, agriculture, peace, living conditions, they are very much there. And for you to have a conference, Neil, at the, let's say, the opening innings of the Sustainable Development Goals fills me with great hope that by 2030, 15 years down the road, there'll be someone else sitting here to say we have collectively done much better than we did in the past. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And I've already marked a mental note to myself not to miss the next one. Thank you.
So I think this is the last person I have asked to speak, and she'll explain why she might have been chosen. And then after this, then we'll I guess, leave the microphone and the talking stick in the center for anybody to pick up.
Hi everyone, my name is Priya. So I'll talk a little bit about my experience and how I got here. So during my undergrad, I did psychology and I wanted to understand what I wanted to do, and I volunteered in hospitals and nonprofit organizations. I knew I wanted to focus on health, so I joined the Canadian Bioethics Society as an undergrad, just to explore what's out there, and I understood about public health and ethics and law and how that all relates. Eventually I met Neil, and so before that I started to understand, or started to become interested in global health, and then I met Neil. So I became involved with the PEGASUS conference 5 years ago. So this is my third conference, and I also had the opportunity to work in hospitals and nonprofit organizations, so in clinical research, and then organizations like Children's Aid Society and Community Living. So yeah, I knew I wanted to do public health, and I was exploring and trying to figure out. And finally, I decided I wanted to go to law school, so I just finished my first year of law school. And throughout the process, Neil was always helpful, so just wanted to say thank you to Neil. You know, he's always encouraging, and anytime I told him I want to do this or this, he was always trying to tell me all his networks or connections, what I could possibly do. So I just want to say thank you to Neil, and thank you to everyone here for making a conference like this possible. So that's it. Oh, yeah. Sure. Okay. So my role at this conference was coordinating the volunteers. So this is my second time in this role. So yeah, and it has been a great experience. Challenging, fun, everything. And you get to meet a lot of people and great volunteers, a great team. So Elena, who organized the whole conference, and the whole team. So it was great to work with everybody and meet a lot of people being in this role. Okay. Thank you.